MK Wazalewski. I'm the product marketing manager here at Process Maker. I'm joined by Kusta Kavela, the co-founder of Workfellow, which is now part of Process Maker, Process Intelligence. We'll tell you more about that in a minute. And then, of course, our CEO, Alex George, who is going to kick us off here with a little bit about how we got here.
Awesome. Thank you, MK. So I thought really we'd just start with kind of a view of the path to process intelligence, really what's driving this, what we believe is kind of the next huge step in being able to connect effectively between the processes we automate, the efficiencies we see, and then the ability to turn that into kind of a continuous feedback loop into a set of capabilities that allow us to really build a flywheel around continuing to improve productivity in our businesses. As you know, we've been obsessed with efficiency. We've really kind of focused on that ever since the firm was founded. And as we've gone through that, we started obviously with the capabilities of building a business process platform. And we've been adding to that platform in terms of a decision engine to be able to handle complex decisions, an IDP capability to be able to handle documents. And that's both understanding what's in a document as well as providing the document management capabilities to be able to store and post and manage the freshness and manage the access to all of these documents. As we've kind of built this tool set out and tried to, create or provide to our clients all the tools needed to effectively improve the speed or the, of their organizations, we've also added artificial intelligence capabilities first focused on accelerating the capabilities of the designer so that designing new processes becomes more efficient and more effective. And then second, being able to take those through to users so that users can have an AI participate either in the decision making or in providing context to the user, as well as the kind of standard if then else rules that are the basis of much of the BPM platform that's been around for a number of years. As we've kind of gone through this, though, we really feel that the next step is not just automating a process once the process has been identified or the issues within the process have been identified. It really becomes important to be able to improve and discover what's happening. So Process Maker, through the tool set, has really kind of provided those three circles that you see at the bottom. The first has been really focused on the ability to automate and to make a single process more efficient. And that flows out in multiple ways, in the way the process is designed, in being able to effectively make sure that approvers or participants in the process are able to receive documents or be able to see, what step they need to be able to take next. That also then happens in the context of managing that process. So being able to understand SLAs and being able to ensure that each step of the process happens in an effective way and be able to understand the bottlenecks that happen. We've obviously provided the analytics tools to be able to measure performance, but the next two big steps are the ones that we're focused on and where process intelligence and the work that the team at Workfellow have been doing becomes so incredibly relevant. And there, our focus really has been on doing two things: on not only improving a process and seeing where those improvements can manifest, but also in discovering processes. And in the discovery phase, what we've noticed is that in many cases, at most organizations, processes just naturally become more complicated as time passes, right? There's more edge cases. The business itself fundamentally changes. And as the business changes, the way a process runs begins, is altered to fit the new nature of the business. And being able to effectively see a whole process becomes hard because most processes require the expertise of multiple subject matter experts. And being able to draw a complete process map requires the participation of all of these subject matter experts who may not know what happens outside their specific area of expertise or their specific focus. So that really then challenges the ability to build a great automation. So we really think fundamentally that what's important here is to be able to kind of see the whole process, see exactly how users are engaged with the process and see how process owners and approvers and all the other participants, engage with that capability. And to be able to do that effectively, we think visibility is key. Think of it as just turning the lights on, of being able to see not just what happens and not just how a single subject matter expert describes a specific component or a specific part of an overall process, but being able to see how that whole process ties together. The interesting thing, though, and many of us have seen this in our own organizations, is that, as I said before, as the organization changes, as the the business changes, the amount of data that's in the core system, the ERP in this example, kind of is, while that is generally the single source of truth, and it may store all the results, the actual activity happens in other places. And so only 10% of that actual process happens inside the core system. The most obvious kind of manifestation of this is that I think now at the average company, there's between 400 and 700 separate SaaS applications that that company has purchased. And you kind of see that manifest in the multiple ways in which people engage with that overall ERP process. There may be documents in Adobe, there may be a risk mitigation or a risk analysis tool that's being used in conjunction with SAP. The pricing tool may not be in SAP. The pricing tool may be in an Excel spreadsheet somewhere. And then policies may be completely in SAP, but likely are in yet a third tool. And what you find is that there are SMEs in each of these spaces who do work in their own way. And so being able to clearly see how a single a single PO flows through the system becomes harder. It's less obvious, it's less clear. And so that becomes a challenge, obviously, in just documenting the process, but it also becomes an incredible challenge in determining where the optimizations, where the improvements to the company can be made. So as we really kind of thought through the solution, we met with the Workflow team, and the work they've been doing in the space has been simply incredible. We think being able to kind of view that whole set of capabilities really will fundamentally shift how companies are able to engage with this and how companies are able to understand how a process flows through. We think process intelligence, though, and this is again what we thought was incredibly powerful about the Workflow product and approach to the market, is that it's a combination of not just process mining and task mining, but it's, if I may, the virtues of both with the vices of neither. So as you can see on the left and on the right of kind of process intelligence, the first thing is, like, we wanted the deployment process to be pretty straightforward. We wanted to be plug and play. It didn't need a million integrations. It doesn't require a connection to the ERP. It doesn't require a set of connections to all the other tools that exist. And it doesn't require prior knowledge of what all those tools are. The KPIs are provided not just at the process and the task level, but at the process, task, and activity level, all in a single place. And the idea is that being able to deploy this should be self-serve. So a client could choose to deploy this and could choose to add an agent, which monitors a single product, and the ability to monitor a single process by themselves. And while a subject matter expert may have 5 or 6 or 7 separate processes running through their systems, our goal is to monitor just the single process for which the client has chosen to focus, and therefore maintain and really manage the privacy very effectively. And we anonymize all the data, so we're not, unlike task mining tools, monitoring the employee, and it doesn't require all the crazy customization and data cleansing that happens in kind of traditional process mining. So that's been the approach, and this is why we think, in terms of a product approach, we think it's really kind of, as I said, provides the virtues of both worlds. In terms of being able to kind of deliver this capability, we think that there's a number of things that the clients care about. The first, obviously, is really in one place being able to see the process, being able to see how the process is working and what the key metrics are. And the data collection, as I mentioned before, is automated. And because this is a cloud platform, we can scale up and scale down in an elastic manner to kind of suit the business. And so clients can understand how a process works and how that scales without having to worry that they've exceeded a specific capacity outline. And then the insights don't require 24 hours and data is chunked in real time, and therefore can be provided back to the user or to the process owner in real time. What you see here, though, is a clear view of kind of the factors that play out, right? So how many transactions there are, and how many transactions we were able to we analyzed, and what obviously we can apply filters around this. We can begin to see how much time is spent on this, and therefore begin to calculate the cost of the time spent in each of these as a total, and then the cost spent on a transactional basis. It's these insights that begin to give us a much clearer view of like what actually goes into, creating and managing a PO. Like how much does that actually cost the business? And is there value in automating, that specific process? And we find that it also really helps clients begin to prioritize the processes that require automation, because hey, if the process is run once a week and it takes an hour, that may be less exciting than a process that takes 15 minutes but gets run 500 times a week, right? The cost differential will really kind of play that out. The idea here also is to kind of really be able to drill down into the detail around exactly where a process is flowing and exactly where it's getting stuck. So these are all screenshots, and of course, we'd love to be able to kind of show you the product in a more interactive way specific to your needs at your convenience. But what you see here, just at a high level, is on the far left, a quick view of how a process flows with all the kind of exception handling that happens. So as you see, the steps on the right are outside kind of the main flow. You begin to see the variance of that process, and just generally how long the process takes, the throughput, and the time taken to work through the process. A user could then choose to focus in on a specific element and investigate how a specific step in that process flows. And by clicking through, they can begin to see, exactly what in this case, it's a code analysis, but they can begin to see exactly how long that step takes and get much more context of exactly what the flow is, all the way through to the far right, where you can begin to see, what is happening in this step, like how many people are editing credit versus editing address, how many people are canceling the transaction in this step. And that level of detail really kind of effectively gives the process owner much more clarity in terms of where to focus, what steps to consider, and how a process can be improved. There are also automated suggestions that are part of the product that'll say, hey, look, here are the 2 steps that we could use better, document processing, or here are the 2 steps that could use optical character recognition so that reading a document doesn't take so long, or transcribing a document manually from PDF into a system could be automated so that users' time can be saved or used more efficiently. The data collection is really kind of key here. The API on the far left allows us to be able to understand what's happening on each of these desktops. And our focus is really being able to collect and anonymize data across the multiple desktops that are being used throughout our clients. The analysis piece is where we're really focused on creating and analyzing all the steps to a specific task and being able to view them in the context of an overall process. And, just like all good object-oriented programming, this is an object-centric data model. So we're able to kind of effectively view all the elements or all the abstract components and attributes of an object in a single place and flow those through to the insights. The insights tools are all self-service, so we'd love for you to be able to do that analysis on your own. Of course, we're happy to help give greater context, but that really allows the client to be able to watch a process as it flows through. And this becomes much more than a static experience. It becomes a dynamic experience where the client can engage with this on a super regular basis and have a much clearer view of how processes are changing and how the flow of processes are changing as changes happen in the business, or as modifications happen to the process flow, either through a BPMN tool or through direction to the folks working on the process to change the way they're operating. We think the other key capability here is to be able to automatically map processes from start to finish. And being able to do that effectively allows a whole series of capabilities. Here, you'll notice that we're actually following the case through multiple teams. A team that started the process in Washington, and where the case status was, and then how that that step went into review some period of time later, in this case 2.5 days, and it goes from validate to review, and we're still tracking that same case number. And then finally, that case flows all the way to a team in India, in Bangalore, that approves this specific case, and and we keep tracking that same case number throughout each of the steps. And we can see how each of the teams interacted with other tools in the context or in the prosecution of this case, right? And we can see like what those tools were and how they were used. So you can kind of get much greater context of not just the process flow itself and the time that it took, but the other tools that participate in executing this process. So through this, obviously, the key effort or key capability is to kind of view not just how much time it takes, both in terms of throughput, but also in terms of actual physical work that's manual, right? Like how much time are we putting against this that requires a human to engage with this? And we think those are the two key factors that really kind of improve performance, right? Productivity through just faster transactions, more friction-free transactions, and then productivity through just less requirement of people engaging with this with essentially more automation. So I'm going to hand over to Kusta here, who's hopefully going to walk us through, or is definitely going to walk us through some use cases and some specific examples of how the product has been used. Kusta?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Like very insightful. So if we go through the a couple of use cases, so I start with the more general benefits of the platform, and then we dive into specific cases like with the insurance sector. But why we are here, it's probably because of saving time and money in our processes and making those more efficient, and how the visibility can really help. So there is 5 different examples. So first one is really understanding the utilization of resources in the processes. So how much people we need to actually drive the process. If we think about finance accounting during the monthly closing processes, how much capacity we need, or if we think continuous basis, in customer service, and really helping to get the quantified data about what is the actual number of people we need to execute those processes, and then save money and time, better allocating the resources if there is a time for it. Also, annual savings through uncovered automation. So when we are thinking about inputting automation in the business processes, the first target might be easy to find out. It's probably those kind of cases, low-hanging fruits in that sense that we know exactly where we want automation to happen. But then expanding from there, this process intelligence really helps to discover what are the other automation targets and candidates, and really pinpoint a solution to there. Then, of course, reduction of unnecessary tasks. So I think getting this kind of oversight on the business processes has been super helpful for our customers, and especially for the top management and managers to understand what kind of activities are done in the processes, so they can eliminate unnecessary work and process waste, and really get a fast return on investments and savings, with those kind of fast savings. And then, of course, Alex mentioned streamlining the processes, understanding the variation, understanding what kind of things are breaking our SLAs, where we are deviating from our happy paths or desired paths, and really dive into the root causes. What is the real root cause of those deviations, so you can take into action on those and improve your throughput times in the processes. And the final one, really understanding how to integrate the system. So manual moving of the data is making processes, of course, very, very slow. So really understanding how to integrate that systems into full use and make your processes flow much faster. If we go to individual use case in the next slide, one of our customers, global insurance company, their biggest challenge was that they had feeling that something is wrong in their processes. They really couldn't find out objectively what is causing the issues in the processes, why they're working in the underwriting process too long time with those kind of deals which they cannot close or win. And we engage with them to really unveil this mystery of what really happens in the business operation. The root cause was exactly the reason why they couldn't understand what is happening, because 90% of the work happened outside of their underwriting system. and it was like total mystery for the business operations. What was found out that like they had like lots of work, of course, to centralize the work into their core system, where it's like every workflows are already automated, but really driving that kind of efforts, and then automating the manual work. So what was unveiled, there was like lots of like potential for automation because the people were manually transferring data and doing repetitive workflows. And one example also is the country level standardization. So with the productivity, there was 3x differences country to country level in efficiency. The root causes were really on the technology side, how the people are adapting technology and using those, and how the processes were organized, even though like same output should be delivered in there. So now they can really benchmark A teams to B to C teams and really copy the best practice and roll that country by country. And with 3 weeks, we basically started the assignment, installed the software in 3 weeks, full production, and we already had these insights, which were like totally 5 million USD savings just when we started assignment with them. So like a really fast way to get like an initial idea about like what to improve in the business operations, and of course starting with discovering and then like placing those automations in action. If we dive more to individual insight in the next slide, in this specific case, one of the things was, of course, that they had idea that like they have been investing on integrating the platforms in their processes for years. One of the things what they found out was that actually people are doing millions of manual data copy operations between the business applications, which they expected to be fully integrated. And this picture in here is actually like from the process intelligence platform. It's showing every single copy-paste operations what the teams are doing. And if systems would be fully integrated, there wouldn't be anything in this picture. But trust me, always there is like lots of like data what is manually transferred. And with this insight, they got like integration roadmap. So like a really prioritized list of where is the biggest integration potential. And now they can act based on that one. Time-wise, 0.5 million euro savings found annually, but also imagine how much like mistakes are happening when people are manually transferring the data and data doesn't flow, how much is like holding the business process throughput time as well. But this was like a short examples of like what kind of benefits we have been doing, finding with the customers and implementing. And now I think like MK to you.
Thank you, Kusta. And thank you, Kusta, for joining us from Helsinki, Finland this morning for us here in the US and afternoon, evening for you. All right, so you've heard a little bit about how this works, what this can do for you. So I invite you to think about what process in your firm is causing you pain, and how could you, how could this maybe help you to figure out why it's so painful? And then you can get over that big hurdle before moving on to the rest of automation. And speaking of the rest of automation, so on this next slide, there's just an overview of, Gartner refers to this intelligent BPM suite, the key capabilities. And so we're very excited here at Process Maker that now with the introduction of this process intelligence solution, we can offer our full range of products, either from our platform, the main platform, or with different augmentations with the decision engine, other integrations and things like that. We can provide the solution start to finish with figuring out what the process is that you need to automate, and then automating it, continuing to improve it, and then boosting your company's ability to analyze how effective those are, how effective your systems are, and the data that comes within it. All right, so that concludes our prepared presentation for today. So if you would like to know a lot more, please reach out through our contact page on our website or through any of your existing contacts here at Process Maker, and we would love to tell you more about this. We have about a minute and a half left to answer a couple of quick questions today. So again, there is a Q&A function at the bottom, so we may have room for a little bit more. I do have one question that was submitted in advance here. Sorry, do you collect personal identifying information in order to obtain this process information? Kusta, you want to answer that?
Yeah, very good question. So how we collect the data is that like you can first define what data is collecting and leaving the computers for the analysis. So we are not calling, you can avoid like all the sensitive PII data in the collection. And in that sense, like we are fully GDPR compliant as a solution.
Excellent. Excellent. And is there a I'm sorry, how long does this take to implement? I think you touched on this a little bit in one of your slides earlier where you said you were able to roll it out in one case in 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So this is not like IT project in that sense. Like what we need from company side is like installation on the computer, and then customer can like remotely configure everything, and you can get into insights in a couple of weeks. So like really fast to implement into action. Never mind what is your IT landscape underlying.
Excellent. That's always exciting to hear. So again, reach out to your contacts at Process Maker. One more question from the audience here. Is this baked into Process Maker? I think you're referring to the platform as an additional feature, or is this a separate module that integrates with the platform?
So we are working like towards like integrating this with the platform as well. But like during the time being, like also we are providing this as a standalone product.
Excellent. All right, I think that is time today. So thank you again so much for your questions. If you have more questions that we didn't have time to get to today, since we ran right up to the end of the 30 minutes, please reach out to marketing@processmaker.com or your favorite Process Maker contact. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.